All right, I'm ready to go.
Thanks, Adam, NIT. I call this meeting to order. This is the meeting, the Sherburne County Commissioners, February 21st, 2023 meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
She stands,
under
nation,
God,
under God, with the whole
liberty and justice
liberty.
for all. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your patience and our little delay in starting. Just a few notes. We have one of our commissioners joining us remotely. Andrew Hulls is joining us remotely today, so all of our votes will be taken in a roll call fashion. Just wanted people to know that. And Gary Gray's name under him should not say Bruce M., it should say Gary G. So please note those items. I think that's it so far for our housekeeping. As we move into this meeting, I appreciate IT and everyone working together to make this happen. We had some technical difficulties this morning, and it's good that I wasn't in charge of figuring it out. So with that, I would be open to an approval of our regular meeting proposed agenda. I have been notified of no changes. So we need a motion.
I would move that we approve the agenda.
Motion made by Commissioner Felber,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Gray. All in favor, we will vote by roll call. Andrew?
Aye.
Rayanne?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Greg?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item number 2, our open forum. Jessica, do we have anyone signed up for open forum?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have four people signed up for open forum. Our first speaker is Brett Collier from Big Lake. Consent agenda is his issue.
Okay, thanks. And I believe our speakers here this morning know our guidelines, so I'm not going to repeat those. So good morning, Brett.
Good morning. On the TV screen.
I know you're back there.
Brett Collier, Big Lake. Consent agenda.
Brett, is your mic on?
Okay, Brett.
Can you check that down on the bottom?
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Brett Collier, Big Lake. Today I want to talk about the consent agenda. This week's consent agenda is comprised of 16 items. The only items that should be in the consent agenda are items 1, 2, and 5. The reason that we hired you commissioners to represent your constituents elected you based upon your views of numerous subjects. Now, what your constituents want to see is whether you're sticking to your stated convictions or not. If we don't see how you vote on each individual expenditure, each policy issue, we don't know if we're getting our money's worth or not. Dumping all these items into an omnibus, up or down vote only serves to insulate each one of you from taking responsibility of your policy and fiduciary actions. For example, say Commissioner B doesn't agree with consent agenda 311, thinks the wrong actions are being taken and it costs too much, but Commissioner B also sees their pet project in a consent agenda 318. So they're just going to give a blanket yes vote so as not to ruffle the feathers of fellow commissioners, and plus, it's just going to pass anyway, or that's what they're led to believe. We, the constituents, want to see your vote. We want to know whether you are following what you ran on convictions or not. We want to be able to hold you accountable. Packing the consent agenda is only a means to provide yourself plausible deniability. Specifically, today's agenda item 3.3, $233,000 to provide fiber optic broadband to 64 properties in Elk River. That's $3,640 per property. Why are my tax dollars going to provide someone else faster internet service? And don't tell me it's a grant, because grant money comes from some government, and the government gets their money from taxes. Utilities should not be subsidized by the state. Phone, electric, trash, cable, their business model should be restricted to monies from those they serve only. Couldn't this money be otherwise spent better? Agenda item 3.6, warrants. What are these warrants? When someone tells me warrant, I'm thinking a warrant for arrest or something. Here I've got manual warrant for $2,000, commission warrant for $396,000, $104,000 going to Harris Picard Jan. Is that an individual? It says in the description that unless otherwise noted, these are already approved expenditures. Why are we having to bring these up and approve them again? I could go on talking about the other 11 items, but I think I've gotten my point across, and I'm probably out of time. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Terry Dickinson from Big Lake, and she is speaking on SF 1723.
Good morning, Terry.
Morning. Good morning. I'm here to speak about Senate File 1723. It's an omnibus bill of gun control. It is regarding banning possession, prohibiting, and amending our regulation and regulating firearms. I'm going to read bits and pieces of it. It is necessary to implement a rational regulatory system for firearms similar to Minnesota's longstanding system of licensing drivers and registering motor vehicles. A similar system of rational and responsible regulation of firearms. The court has held that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual's right to self-defense. However, the courts acknowledge a reasonable restriction may be placed on firearms, some of which have been effectively banned from private ownership. This legislation is consistent with the court's upholding and strikes a proper balance between an individual's right to bear arms and the compelling interest of the state. It claims that nothing in this legislation infringes on the constitutional rights to keep and bear arms. Well, let's see what the Constitution says here. The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to keep the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is a lot broader than self-defense. It's keeping our state free. Let's look at Article 6. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Now, the constitutionally protected rights and liberties of the people are the law of the land, not the Supreme Court's opinions. Courts opine. Laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So any laws contrary to to defending our constitutionally protected liberties are illegitimate and unenforceable. And let's go over a paragraph in the Declaration of Independence here. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator, not the state, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable means you can't take my rights away, and I can't give them away. I can't give them away for future generations, nor can the state take them from me. Unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which originally was the pursuit of property. But that was such a common thing back then, they rephrased it. Anyway, I want to close with showing you a few of the Gun Control Hall of Fame. Stalin took guns away from his citizens in 1929, then murdered 20 million of them once defenseless.
Terry,
Pol Pot.
your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. And please give your printed items, if you have them, to Jessica and Keisha. Okay. Our next speaker?
Our next, our next speaker is Carrie Watkins, speaking on the election, and she's from Haven Township.
Morning, Carrie. Kari.
Yeah, thank
Kari.
you.
I caught
Kari.
myself. I'm
It's
like,
okay.
that doesn't sound right.
It's okay. It happens all the time. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Kari Watkins, and I live in Haven Township. I continue to ask the Commissioners to provide for secure, accurate, and elections and the use of all electronic voting systems and third-party providers such as ERIC and foreign companies such as Seidel. Elections have consequences, and the consequence of the last few elections have been devastating for babies, families, our youth, and our constitutionally protected God-given rights. I will be reading from page 15 and 16 of Fox News Network's discovery in the court case Dominion versus Fox News Network. Discovery in this case has revealed that Dominion's own employees expressed serious concerns about the security of its machines. Mark Beckstrand, a Dominion sales manager, confirmed that other parties have gotten a hold of Dominion's equipment illicitly in the past. Beckstrand identified specific instances in Georgia and North Carolina and testified that a Dominion machine was hacked in Michigan. Beckstrand confirmed that these security failures were reported in the news. And just weeks before the 2020 presidential election, Dominion's Director of Product Strategy and Security, Eric Coomer, acknowledged in private that our blank is just riddled with bugs. Indeed, Coomer had been castigating Dominion's failures for years. In 2019, Coomer noted that our products suck. He lamented that almost all of Dominion's technological failures were due to our completely messed up installation. He's a little profane. In another instance, he identified a critical bug leading to incorrect results. He went on to note, it does not get much worse than that. And while many companies might resolve their errors, Coomer lamented that we don't address our weaknesses effectively. Internal Dominion documents likewise confirm that Dominion machines suffered several potential glitches in the November 2020 election. After a security expert told media that Dominion software should be designed to detect and prevent the kind of glitch experienced in Antrim County, Michigan during the 2020 presidential election, Coomer told Dominion Vice President Kay Stimson he's not entirely wrong. Likewise, in the immediate aftermath of the election, Dominion received complaints from jurisdictions in Georgia noting irregularities without machine counts that required Dominion employees to reprogram the machines. So I'll leave this document for you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Kari. Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Tracy from Big Lake, speaking on 2A. Tracy, if you could please state your last name. Thanks.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm sure you're aware of the new gun bills being pushed through at the state level. For this reason, it's imperative and a sense of urgency that Sherburne County, the sheriff, and you commissioners take a stance to defend the Second Amendment rights of Sherburne residents. Now is the time to declare Sherburne County a Second Amendment sanctuary dedicated county. For those of you against this, my question is why? Currently, there are 10 counties that have passed strong Second Amendment resolutions. When each of you were elected to office, you took an oath to support the Constitution. Now is the time to act on your oath and prove to the residents of Sherburne County that you believe in the Constitution and the Second Amendment. If we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it. In 1956, Pot took away guns from his citizens, then murdered 2 million of them once defenseless. In 1938, Hitler took away guns from his citizens and then murdered 13 million of them once defenseless. In 1935, Mao took away guns from his citizens, then murdered 20 million of them once defenseless. In 2020, during the pandemic, it was proven that our rights can be taken away. So what's stopping from our guns' rights to be taken away? Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Any other speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Thank you. So that concludes our open forum for today. So we'll move on to our consent agenda before you. We have items 1 through 16 that were presented. And as it states on your agenda, some details about the consent agenda. Any county commissioner can request an item be removed from the consent agenda and presented individually for consideration by the county board. I have been made aware of no items that anyone wishes to pull, but if there are any, please let me know.
Madam Chair, I do have a question on one, and I'm trying to find my consent agenda.
Greg, if you just name the consent item.
It's on the park for Island View Park. When I was reading through the master plan, I see that we are,
We have to pull it first and then
Okay.
Yeah.
move, and then we'll talk about that one.
okay.
Okay, so I would be open to a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling item number 12 and discussing that individually. County Attorney, is that the appropriate? Okay, thank you. So we will move agenda item number 12, take it immediately after we approve the consent.
Madam Chair, do you need a second?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 12 pulled for separate consideration.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski and seconded by Commissioner Hulse. Okay, so we pulled item number 12, so now I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Chair Phobie votes aye. Commissioner Felber?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Hulse?
Aye.
Motion carries. So item number 12. Commissioner Felber, if you'd like to give us your thoughts.
Well, when I was reading through the master plan, I see that this is a continuation of a master plan that we put together in 2011, obviously long before I was elected. I did have one question when I was reading through just the information on the website. Apparently, Richard Rothaus did a cultural resources survey there, and I see that there were significant cultural resources there. Have we done the phase 2 and phase 3 on that, or is that part of this budget? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Phobie and Commissioners. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Felber. We have only done a phase 1, and this project would prompt a phase 2. So you are correct. I've reached out to our tribal partners as well to help us develop a scope for that phase 2. So we're fully aware that that's going to be a necessity, and that cost is not an eligible item for funding through the grant.
Okay, so thanks. That was Gina Hugo, our Parks Coordinator. Any other questions or comments, Greg?
Nope, that answers my question. I just wondered at what point we were doing that and where we're going to be at, because he did mention Mississippian, which gets me a lot more excited than other people, but that's beside the point.
So would you make a motion then to approve item number 3.12 under the consent?
Yes, Madam Chair, making a motion to approve item 3-12 under consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a first and second on that. Again, I'll call roll call. Chair Phobie votes aye. Commissioner Felber?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Hulse?
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
And motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 4, that of announcements. Administrator Messelt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'd like to add my thanks to IT staff and to the clerk and her staff for adjusting this morning with the technology challenges. Also adjusting this week just for board information and for the community, the AMC Legislative Conference has been moved to a all Zoom conference. If you haven't received the links for those activities, Keisha and I will be working this afternoon to get them to you. But due to what looks to be a significant snow event, everything's been moved to online. We were able to, as far as I understand it, cancel the room reservations without any cost to the taxpayers. I don't know if AMC will be reimbursing part of the legislative or the cost for the conference. I'm assuming that'll still be an online registration fee. On that note, just so you're aware, the Public Works staff and also your property maintenance staff are preparing for a major snow event. Obviously, Public Works is most important for safety to get out and make sure the major thoroughfares remain open, but also your property maintenance staff to make sure facilities are open as needed. We'll also be watching the conditions from an employee standpoint and a public access standpoint, and if necessary, we'll be going into the protocols for limited services should it get extremely bad on Wednesday and Thursday. Moving back on the calendar just a little bit, just to note that those interested in attending the AMC Legislative Summit, if you would let Keisha and I know so we can get you registered for that coming up here. On the legislative front, I'll probably just do a written update. I know you've been tracking what's happening at AMC as well as the MICA with their legislative updates. There's just so many things going on right now that impact counties that it's hard to individualize them. What I would note is our loan project, the bonding bill, proceeds. As you know, there's some strategic things going on at the legislature with bonding, and we're not part of the first tranche, which is probably a good thing because it seems to be a highly partisan approach right now to the bonding bill. But every indication we have is that we still have our major Zimmerman overpass project in play. And then last but not least, just a note also that the committee that was formed by the board to discuss the possibility of taking a position on constitutional issues did meet, and at this point there's a thought at least that I will prepare a draft proclamation for the county board to consider as part of Constitution Day that would emphasize the constitutional basis for our democracy both at the national and the state level, including all of its amendments and bills of rights. So I'll be preparing that and getting that ready for that possible consideration later this year.
Any other announcements? I have one last announcement that I just want to, Jay Hanshu, as you all know, this is his last week with our corrections department. He has led our department for many, many years, and I just want to thank him on behalf of the board. He has chosen not to have a public gathering or a staff countywide gathering, so just want to thank Jay for his service of many years to our county, our citizens, and our community. So
I'll just add to, Madam Chair, and we wish him well in his well-earned and well-deserved retirement.
Okay. Then moving on to our regular agenda item, or our regular agenda, item number 5.1 brings us Brian Hunker with Great River Energy and the Northland Reliability Project. So welcome, Brian.
Great, thank you. Is it the up arrows?
Can we get this on here too? So you can see, hold on. Okay. No, let me just turn it a bit, or do you want to just speak from now? I'll get a handheld mic for you.
Oh, I can just speak. I just need to know how to change the slides.
If you want to move that so you can see it, we all have packets, so. Or back it up even more. Thanks for your patience.
Right. Oh, you can see the screen.
Okay, how'd you do that? Okay, great, thanks. Oh, no problem. I just set this here. Okay, good morning. I'm Brian Hunker with Great River Energy. And today we're going to provide an update on the Northland Reliability Project. This is a new transmission line, transmission rebuilds, new substation, and some line configuration project. There we go. Okay, so as you can see on this slide here, it's a joint project proposed by Great River Energy and Minnesota Power. Great River Energy serves roughly 2/3 of the state of Minnesota, and Minnesota Power serves customers up in the northeastern part of the state, along with a lot of large industrial clients associated with mining and processing. So you can see that the project roughly extends from the Iron Range substation near Grand Rapids, Minnesota, down to the Big Oaks substation, which is a new substation proposed here in Sherburne County. Big Oaks is actually going to be built as a part of a different project, and we can dive into that a little bit further in the presentation. The project came to be through MISO, which stands for Mid-Continent Independent System Operators. And they're the grid operator for the upper Midwest here. So they extend from North Dakota, South Dakota, all the way over to Michigan. There's roughly 18 projects proposed in this first LRTP, or Long Range Transmission Plan. All of those projects are shown in orange. Our project is highlighted in blue, which again extends from the Iron Range down to, well, it's called Cassie's Crossing on this map, but it's actually the Big Oaks substation. That name was changed recently. So all of these projects are also not islands. They're all actually connected together through the existing transmission grid and the existing infrastructure that is out there. And you can learn more about these through the misoenergy.org. They also have the long-range transmission plan available through there. Our project specifically came about as our generation resources are shifting towards more renewables. The grid needs to provide, or this project will provide a lot more voltage stability to the grid. It'll increase capacity to bring on additional generation resources throughout time. It also provides flexibility to meet the demands of the grid. So as we've got more clients that come on board, then we need to serve those clients. And it also provides resilience. So it'll help the grid in weathering various weather events that may come at us. So the project is shown as two main segments. Segment 1 extends from Iron Range substation down to the Benton County sub. Benton County sub is right outside of Sauk Rapids, kind of by the Territorial Golf Course. And then segment 2 is from Benton County substation down to the Big Oaks substation. So we'll dive into these a little bit further here. Segment 1, again, is a new double circuit 345 transmission line. It's approximately 130 miles long, and we're looking to site that line next to existing transmission facilities. And then we're also going to build a new substation at Riverton right outside of Cuyuna. Segment 2, which is from the Benton County substation to the Big Oaks substation, that is replacing existing transmission facilities. So we've got a 230 kilovolt transmission line, and we're going to replace that with the double circuit 345. And that's approximately 20 miles long. And we're looking to do that within the existing right-of-way of that 230 kV transmission line. So our next slide here shows what we're calling some additional project improvements. And this includes expanding the Iron Range substation up at Grand Rapids. We're also going to be expanding the Benton County substation and reconfiguring the existing transmission at those substations, so at Iron Range, at Benton County, and then also in the Riverton, Cuyuna area. We are also going to be rebuilding an existing 345 kV transmission line that extends from Benton County down to the Sherco substation. So again, in Sherburne County here, we're going to be rebuilding the 230 kV transmission line to a double circuit 345, approximately 20 miles long. We're going to be rebuilding an existing 345 kV transmission line to a 345 kV transmission line. That also is roughly 20 miles long. And then expanding, well, the Benton County sub is right on the border, but we'll be expanding that sub. And then it's all tying into the Big Oak substation. And the Big Oak substation is actually being built by Excel as a part of a different project. So this slide shows the map within Sherburne County. This is actually provided in your packet as well. We've provided one that has basically no aerial photo background, and then one that shows an aerial photo background as well. So you can see that the line that is shown in blue is that 230 kV transmission line. The line shown as red is that 345 kV transmission line that will be built. We don't quite have the exact location of the Big Oak substation, but it's going to be proposed somewhere just south of the Sherburne County substation, which is existing, and then the river down there. So right now we have defined our route corridor. We started out in October of 2022 with a large study area. We've narrowed that study area down to a route corridor. The route corridor is the areas that are shown on your map here. And we are looking to, we actually had public outreach meetings in January on the route corridor. And right now we are taking in that data that we received from the public. We are going to be narrowing the route corridor into a route alternative, and then identifying a proposed route. And that proposed route will go into an application for a certificate of need and a route permit application to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. We are hoping to submit that application later this summer, early fall here of 2023. So this graphic, oh, I missed one here. Okay, so this graphic here shows our study area, which is shown on the left side. So you can see it's kind of a wider area. And we've narrowed the study area into our route corridor. As you can see, it's not just one contiguous shape, but it does have some wider areas associated with it. And those wider areas would be around landscape features that we may need to site around. It gives us a little more of an opportunity to work with people on figuring out the best route through that area. So we are looking at opportunities and constraints to the transmission line development, along with engineering and construction considerations for that facility. Again, in segment 1, which is Benton County North, we're looking to site it next to existing transmission, and then within the Benton County south to the Big Oaks area, we are looking to use our existing easements for that replacement. We do have a lot of opportunities for public engagement. We do have a website that's up that contains all of this information, and that's northlandreliabilityproject.com. We also have an interactive comment map on there where it's like a Google Earth type interface where people can select an area, add a comment. We did have public open houses in late January. Once we develop our route alternatives, we will host another week of public open houses to seek comment on those. Right now, we're trying to figure out the best timing on that as we develop our route corridors here. And then, of course, we're always willing to meet with people either in person or virtually. And folks can request a meeting through that website where we have a hotline, an email address, or just a comment form on the website as well. It's a quick snapshot of the meetings that we held in January, extended over a 2-week time period. We held 14 meetings at 7 different locations from Grand Rapids all the way down to Becker. We often get asked, what is this going to look like? What's it going to entail? So as you can see in this graphic, this is the segment 1, where we've got the 230 kV transmission facility shown as an H-frame structure. And then our structures that we're proposing here are going to be steel monopoles with one circuit on one side and the second circuit on the other side. These are going to be a self-weathering steel, so they're going to kind of turn a brown color. They're going to be on a concrete pier foundation. Nice thing about building next to some of our existing facilities is that allows us to overlap rights of way. So we have a 150-foot wide easement on the existing transmission facility. The new facility would require a 150-foot wide easement, where engineering and landscape topography, other constraints allow us, we can overlap those rights of way by 30 to 40 foot, thereby shrinking the overall width from 300 feet down to, I'll say, roughly 270 foot easement area. In segment 2, we have the H-frame structure shown for the 230 kV line that will be removed, and it will be replaced with the steel monopole double circuit. And that would remain within that 150-foot wide easement area. Our schedule here at a high level shows in 2023, we're going to work on routing, continue with our public engagement and our permitting efforts with submittal of that application to the Public Utilities Commission. 2024 through 2026 are going to be engineering, environmental, land rights studies through that time period. We're looking at 4 years of construction from starting in 2027 to 2030, and hopefully a 2030 in-service date for the project. Oops. So this last slide here shows the best way to connect with us. We've got our hotline, email address, of course our website, and our website's got a comment form. And whether you submit a comment through our hotline, an email address, usually they'll come to me for Great River, or they'll go to Zach Olkowski for Minnesota Power. Try to address any of those comments within a couple-day time frame.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Brian, for that presentation. We'll open it up to questions from the board.
Brian,
Madam
thank
Chair?
you. Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Halls?
Just a quick question. Does the recent 2040 legislation passed by the state impact this in any way?
Yeah, this project would be needed, regardless of the generation that's happening, right? We do need to provide voltage stability and grid flexibility between northern Minnesota and central Minnesota. So, yeah, I mean, as far as our generation resources are shifting away from coal and to more renewable resources like a wind or a solar. And this does provide the flexibility and to bring on those additional generation sources, along with providing the voltage stability that's needed.
Okay. Commissioner Danielowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have been able to make your open houses and have been following this, and I know that you guys are really working hard to stay within what already is your existing line, and I think that's appreciated, and I know that you're working towards creating greater ability to provide the increased needs as our populations continue to grow. My comment is to make sure that anybody that is out there that wants to make a comment does go to the website and the information that Brian provided, so your comments can get down to the PUC. They are the ones that are in charge of approving this. So that is, just to make sure also to understand that the XL Energy portion of what they're going to be doing to basically do the same thing you're doing by increasing their ability and their beefing up their transmission lines. There is a scheduled open house from Excel tonight up at the Becker Community Center in the gymnasium from 4 to 7. So if that's something you're interested in looking, that'll give you information on what is happening at the Big Lake, Big Oak Station, from where they're going to pick that up from where you guys are bringing down.
Great, yeah, thank you for that, I appreciate that. And then, any comments that are submitted now, that, they come to us directly, and we have the ability to address them. Once we file the application, the state has their comment period as well associated with drafting their environmental assessment or environmental review document. They'll hold scoping meetings, and then they also hold some hearings as well where folks can provide any comments to the Public Utilities Commissioners, and then Department of Commerce does the environmental review for the PUC. So they're the ones that actually do scoping or provide, or write, I should say, the environmental assessment. So comments will also go to them as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions or
Madam
comments?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Gray.
Couple of concerns. Looking at the overview with all of this in it, and Gina's here now, but the existing 230-volt line went right through our Big Lake Park with all the cultural significances that are in that park now. You're going right back through that again? I think when that originally was put through, we weren't around to make any concerns about the cultural implications of what was in there, but if you're gonna go right back through that park again now, equipment, things of that nature, I think and I think Greg would concur with me that we need to include our tribal partners in regards to that. I'm not sure how that will play out, but I think that's something that needs to be observed. The other thing that I noticed going through here are the larger poles going to be spaced at the same distance.
Sure. So regarding the park,
Yeah.
we have had a meeting with your staff on that park and and your tribal partners. And we want to continue to meet with them on that. We actually have met individually with the tribes as well.
Okay.
About this area of the project, and then other areas of concerns that they have further north.
Okay.
So yeah, those conversations are happening. As far as the spacing goes, since these structures will be taller, typically we can have a larger span in between the structures that are out there. So right now, I would say the structures on the landscape maybe are spanned out at 500 to 700 feet, kind of depends on elevation and topography. We are looking at spans now of maybe 700 to 1,000 feet. So I'll say roughly 5 to 6 structures every mile.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask is because some of these go through agricultural fields, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah, and
Yes.
changing the spacing and the distance between them will greatly affect how these irrigation and center pivots will align with those towers. Have you reached out to the farmers that you're going to, so they're aware that these spacings could affect their irrigation systems?
Yeah, center pivot irrigation was a common comment that we received at the open house meetings that we've heard. And we definitely will work with landowners on their pivot systems.
Okay.
Some of them are planning new pivot systems, right? And they want to know where structures are going to be located so that they can accommodate that. But yeah, we are definitely working with landowners on those.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, others? Commissioner Felber?
You may not actually have this data with you, but because popped in my head primarily because we have a major storm coming at us right now. What does it take to take one of these lines down?
Oh, I can't speak to that. As materials have improved, considerably through the years, we do have the ability to make these very, very weather resistant. I mean, that's one of the ideas for selecting a steel structure. But as far as I don't know what it would take.
Is there somewhere that I can go to look up the data on like how many tons of ice per mile or however they rate these things or what sort of wind load they're rated for?
I can get back to you on that.
That would be splendid.
Yeah, I don't have that on the top of my head.
Thank you.
Sure.
New question, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I watched the conversion up along 94. when they converted those to a higher level. Is it going to be similar to that?
The structures that are parallel to 94?
Yes.
Yes, those are a monopole steel structure that have arms on both sides. So yes, the structures will be similar to those. Those are, those still have the steel color to them, so they have a gray or a bluish hue. Ours are gonna be a brown color, a
Okay.
rust type color.
Just so we have a visual of how it works. I think I watched that project for 4 years running up to Concordia for football games every weekend.
Oh, sure.
So it was really interesting, but big project. I really appreciate your communication
Sure,
and how
thank you.
you're communicating with the landowners. It seems like you're really trying to communicate with the individuals that this is going to affect. And the open houses, I heard, were really well received.
Great.
So appreciate
Well, thank
that.
you, I appreciate that.
Anything else? Okay, Administrator Messel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Lady Bird Johnson's probably rolling over in her grave with the beautification issues, but thank you for the update. Real quick question on MISO. You talked about the reliability of the structures themselves, but one of the issues we continually hear about is when you convert to renewables, what is the strategy for reliability and redundancy of the grid itself when there's higher reliance on renewables?
Yeah, what happens is that based upon those 18 projects that I showed on that slide, the grid becomes now more interconnected, and it allows a lot more strength and resilience to bring in generation from other areas of our grid, whether that's, you know, coming over from North Dakota, feeding up through Iowa, Illinois. So we do have the ability to bring generation resources from other areas. And then the lines are all going to be, they're going to have a higher carrying capacity on them. So they can also carry more generation up to our area as well.
So just quick
Madam-
follow on, then if I could do layperson's translation of that. One of the conversations we've heard about solar, for instance, is the more interconnected and robust the transmission and distribution system is, the more it's okay to say there's solar generating somewhere versus not just on the field that I'm looking at. Or wind is blowing somewhere, or there's base load power that you will be able to draw upon if there's a renewable shortage in the immediate area. Is that a fair translation?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner
Madam
Halls?
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
Yeah.
Halls.
So just one, thank you, Madam Chair. One follow on to that question, that overall construction project, do you, and you probably don't have the numbers with you, but is there a time frame for completion of that series of projects that you could get back to us on?
Yeah, I could try to find that data. You know, I know Northland here is one of the first of those projects that is going through route development and permitting. I know, obviously, you guys had mentioned the Excel projects. There's an open house tonight. Those are coming in pretty quick. The Jamestown Ellendale project, which is the one out in North Dakota, that one is beginning development as well. As far as the projects that are down south in Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, I'd have to get back to you on the time frame associated with those. But a lot of the projects in, again, North Dakota and Minnesota are all in some stages of initial development.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mr. Hunker, for this update, and this was an information-only item on our agenda. So
Great, thank you.
thanks for everything. Our next item is an action item, agenda item 5.2, Mr. Dave Lucas with the SCORE budget approvals.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Morning.
You have before you consideration and approval of the 2023 SCORE line item budget. This budget was presented to our advisory committee, and their recommendation was to move it forward to county board for your consideration and approval. It provides for many similar programs that we have funded in the past. And it also provides for a 75% match instead of the required minimum 25% match. And that is to ensure that we have sufficient monies available to continue on with our robust programs, such as our household hazardous waste collection events, the recycling events at townships and cities, and so on and so forth. Are there any questions?
So Keisha or Jessica, could you scroll to part of some of the packet materials for this one? There's the different projects to refresh. We don't have those in front of us, so just to refresh board members' memory of reviewing the packet. And maybe keep scrolling a little bit.
Madam Chair, while Keisha is doing that, I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 score budget as presented.
Motion's made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Danielowski.
sitting on that committee, these are reviewed by the group, and it's to foster different projects to help keep as much as we can out of our landfills that can be recycled in other forms. So we have a lot of partners that we work with, as you can see, that do those things and help us facilitate that effort. And like I said, it's gone through the committee and been approved to move on to the board for approval.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll vote by roll call. Commissioner Felber.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Halls.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
And Chair Phobie votes aye. Motion has carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 5.3, receive, review, and accept the Auditor Treasurer's monthly report for January 2023 with Ms. Diane Arnold. Some reports that weren't included. I just wanted to give you all an update, and then I will be emailing these to Jules as well. Thank you. Okay, and this is also one we might want to scroll a little bit on if you can, just for our public and board members. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners and Madam Chairman. So before you is my monthly report that we've put together to provide the information to our county commissioners as to how we are faring for year to date and where we're at with fund balances, and kind of giving you an update of what's going on and different things within our department. So the first page that you would come to is going to be our balance sheet, and that is a balance sheet that compares last January to this January in our fund balance. So that is our total of all of our funds that we have in our accounting system. Next in there is going to be an investment report prepared by Lorraine Rupp, and I have Lorraine here, and she's going to give a little bit of an update on some of the trends that are going on with investments. So Lorraine, if you want to pop up.
Good morning, Board. As Diane said, I'm Lorraine Rupp. I'm the Finance Officer in the Auditor Treasurer's Office, and I handle all the cash and investments and daily management of that for the county. All of our cash and investments are handled according to state statutes, which limit the types of investments we can place county funds. All the funds are placed with safety, liquidity, and yield in mind, and in that order. 2022 provided a few things that no one predicted. One being Federal Reserve raising the federal funds overnight target rate from 0.25% in January of 2022 to 4.7% as of right now. You might expect that our investment earnings budget should be increasing at that same rate. It's not quite how it works. Our investment earnings are well over budget for 2022, and we have increased the 2023 budget accordingly. Over the past 2 years, we have steadily increased the amounts that we've been investing in search of the elusive interest yield needed to make our budget. The majority of the current investments were made in late 2021 and early 2022 as the interest rates began to climb. These investment maturities are 2 to 5 years per our investment policy. We are currently at our max investments for the cash flow needed monthly. Because of this, you will not see much of an increase in the investment income budget for the next 2 years as we roll through these maturity rates that we currently have. The majority of the county funds received in a given year are from property tax collections and state funding. This time of year, our cash flow is very tight as collections are very light. State funding is rather unpredictable. Our office is working on the 2023 property tax calculations and billing statements. Will be out to our taxpayers by the end of March. So our collections will start to pick up mid-April with first half taxes due by May 15th. These funds will be placed very short term as we pay out to the school districts and other entities that we serve as a collection for. The county share of these collections will then be analyzed, and any available funds will be placed in longer-term investments matching our payout needs. We are a member of the Minnesota Association of Governments Investing for Counties, MAGIC is the acronym, and this is where the majority of our short-term dollars will be. The current daily rate for MAGIC is 4.67%. Doing this will maximize our earnings for the very short time that we have these funds. The current trend for the interest rates is more stable than last year. We're still looking for a few increases by the Federal Reserve this year and then a pause. Some models are actually pointing to a slight decrease by the end of the year. Only time will tell. We're keeping a close eye on what is happening, and with our short maturities, we should be able to take advantage of these new higher rates later this year. Any questions for me?
Okay, thanks for that report. Seems like that summary seems like we should put in a time capsule. That was so great. Thanks, Lorraine. Any questions or comments of Lorraine or Diane?
And again, Commissioners, my door is open. If you have questions, feel free to come see me.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that. Moving on to the rest of the report that is in there. Wanted to give you an update coming up. We've got March 14th as our township elections. So the voting hours there, they must be at least from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And those will be the voting hours for all of our township elections. And my office will be open until 8 p.m. that day to take calls, except for Haven Township, Orac, and Big Lake Township. They now follow the general election cycles every 2 years with elections held in November. Also in that report is the 2022 gravel tax report. So this is a annual report that's included in here for your information. Currently, we have a fund balance of $1,361,033.28 in the gravel tax fund. These funds are to be used for the restoration of abandoned pits, quarries, or deposits located within the county. If there are not abandoned pits, quarries, or deposits located within the county, this portion of tax should be used for any other unmet reclamation in need or for conservation or other environmental needs. And this is pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 298.75. The other piece of the handout that I provided to you which is the one with the written on here. These are our total collections that we've collected per year. So you can see like in 2022, we collected of the total taxes that were levied, 99.38% that was collected. In 2021, it was 99.50 and so forth. So we're staying right within the 99% of our total tax collected for each of the following years. So, which is a good thing for our Sherburne County residents and for the other taxing entities. The other piece that I had provided to you was a report that I had worked with and had reviewed with Commissioner Howells. And I just wanted to provide that with you. Also, this is a report by function instead of with all the account numbers and stuff. It's by the function. And this is an executive type of a report. It's budget to actual review. So it'll show you what the expenditures were for January to what the current budget is, and also the revenues, and then the general revenues down below. And as you can see, we've had 0 property taxes collected. We've had other taxes, a few special assessments and stuff, prepaids that were in there under other taxes. No additional intergovernmental revenue right now, and then our earnings of our investment earnings are listed there too. So this is a high-level report that if the board would like to continue receiving this, I can do this monthly for you, if it provides additional information.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Halls.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you very much for the summary report. I know there was a little bit of work to get that together for me, but I find that particular report to be a lot more readable and understandable. So I appreciate the effort on that.
Certainly.
So Commissioner, should maybe we could have that each month
Yep, I can provide that
as
each month.
part of the report?
Yep,
Okay,
I'll
thank
do
you.
that. Okay,
Other questions or comments?
that concludes my report then for the month of January.
Okay, great. Thanks, Diane,
You're
for that
welcome.
report. Moving on to agenda item 5.4, Mr. Dan Weber with our ARPA update and recommended approvals.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This week we have 2 ARPA fund requests. The first is for our cybersecurity premium for 2023. There would be no additional ongoing costs with this expenditure.
Just 1 minute, Dan. Do we need to accept Diane's report because it wasn't part of the consent?
It says review and accept.
Yes, so let's back up. Sorry. Thank you. It just occurred to me. So I'd be open to motion to accept the Auditor Treasurer's monthly report for January 2023.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski,
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other discussion? I will vote by roll call. Commissioner Gray,
Aye.
Commissioner Halls,
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski,
Aye.
the chair votes aye, and Commissioner Felber.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good catch. Thank you. Sorry about that. Item number, Mr. Dan Weber.
We do have 2 ARPA requests for funding this week, and the first is for our cybersecurity premium in 2023. There would be no additional ongoing costs with this request. So looking for approval of the $45,467.
Okay, so that's an action item, so we need a motion to approve the $45,467 cybersecurity premium.
Madam Chair, I'd move we accept that.
Motion
Approve.
made Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Gray makes a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, by roll call, Commissioner Halls,
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski,
Aye.
Chair Phobie votes aye, Commissioner Felber,
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Motion carries. And the next item?
The second request is for the budgeted phase-in of the HR partner cost. If you recall, these were approved in 2021 and then were paid out of the enterprise fund, and we are transitioning those to the levy, so this would be 2/3 of the cost to be paid out of ARPA. It was for the public safety HR business partner and for the benefits and leave coordinator in the admin office. So looking for approval of $143,145 for these expenses.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the?
Madam Chair, I will move that we approve that.
Okay, Commissioner Felber moves to approve.
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Commissioner Danielowski seconds. Any questions or comments? Again, we'll vote by roll call. Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
Chair Phobie votes aye. Commissioner Felber.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Halls.
Aye.
Motion has carried.
Okay, moving on to broadband. The state of Minnesota will be opening up another round of the border-to-border broadband program, and RVIG has reached out to partner on an application. This would be in Clear Lake Township, and there was a map that was included in your packet, but it would serve up to 240 unserved passings. They would be seasonal. It's right next to the Clear Lake Town Hall. The county contribution would be about $112,000 or 20% of the project cost. The state and RVIG would contribute about $450,000. And it did score an 85 out of 100 on our scoring matrix, and the county contribution would work out to about $467 per passing. To commit to the project, the county would need to reopen their broadband Round 2 program that closed in September of 2022, and there is still approximately $280,000 of the $1.5 million that was allocated to the project budget. At this time, RVIG is simply looking for a commitment letter. They are not looking for approval of the project. It would not exceed the amount listed above, which is the $112,000, and the resolution to extend was included in your packet, which limits the program to $280,000, and it would open it up through March 3rd. So looking for a discussion on if that's a project we would like to commit to. They would be awarded later this year if it were funded by the state.
Yeah, Dan, I'm kind of familiar where that one's at. Is that gonna, seasonal, would they be paying the consumers on that, paying yearly then?
They would be paying yearly on that, yes.
Okay.
That'd be an additional ongoing cost for the user.
Okay.
Other questions or comments on this?
And Madam Chair,
Commissioner Danielowski.
Dan, can you kind of, what we're trying to achieve here by getting the accessibility to people in the county to broadband needs?
It was really highlighted during the pandemic, how important broadband is. A lot more people are working from home now, and some are struggling to get that connection. There's a lot of e-learning taking place. We'll probably have 1 or 2 days this week with students. So people are still struggling with broadband, and it was the county board's goal to improve that countywide, and this would be one step in that process.
And the business is still coming in and putting a lot of dollars into, along with capturing the state and federal broadband dollars
Correct. This
to
would be
make
about
this
20%,
happen.
and there'd be 0 local levy dollars. Obviously, it's still tax dollars, but it's 0 local dollars put into this project.
Yes, which we know, that's taxpayer dollars. And it's going to go somewhere, whether it's in this state or across the country. Someone will utilize those taxpayer dollars.
Correct, and this was
to improve their systems.
a recommended use by the federal government.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Halls.
Dan, quick question for you. If we look at the overall map from the county on where where our priorities are for getting broadband where it's not today, where does this geographically fall in those priorities?
Well, this is in Clear Lake Township, which if this project were approved, it would pretty much be 100% covered in Clear Lake. There was another project that was approved as part of the border-to-border program. We are trying to hit all areas that have a population. Obviously, we're not going to put fiber in the refuge, but we're trying to find anywhere where there's a platted area that has a certain number of people. We've also put conduit in on a lot of our road projects. So it's not just federal grants that we're utilizing. We're also utilizing conduit during road projects, which saves about 30%. And then we are leasing those back to providers as well. So we're looking at every avenue that's out there to help expand it to all the populated areas in the county.
Thank you.
Any others? So today we're looking for support for the letter and the resolution.
The resolution to reopen the application process, and then support of the letter to send to RVIG and deed.
So is there a way you could put the resolution up on the screen? That was in the packet. Thank you.
That's the commitment letter. Can you scroll up a little more? That's the resolution.
So two things, to reopen the program, because we would need some more money for this, and then the letter.
Correct.
Arvik.
And like I said, we did have 280,000 left from the original allocation, so we would not be creating additional funds. This would be to still use that, just open it up for more applicants.
Okay, so what's the wish of the board? Administrator Messelt.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, just a note for the board and the community. The reopening the grant application process will allow, the RP process will allow all companies to apply, not just one. I want to make that very clear that it is a, you know, it's a requirement that we open it. The letter of commitment for the grant application to state is just that. If they get awarded it, we will have to review that. We don't want to put the cart before the horse here. We don't want to prohibit them from applying, but I just want to make it clear that the RP process will take precedence. Okay.
So we should probably take these separately.
It'd probably be good, and I would do the resolution first and then the letter of commitment.
So the resolution, opening up
The program application.
program application
Yes.
again. Thank you. I couldn't find my words.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to reopen the program application period from 2/21/23 through 2/28/23.
Madam Chair, I will second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski and seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I probably should add, and that would be in the resolution.
Okay, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Chair Phobie votes aye. Commissioner Felber?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Halls?
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Motion has carried. And then moving on to the letter, the commitment letter by Arvig, pending a successful state-boarded border broadband program application. We would also need action on that.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Danielowski,
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call. Commissioner Felber?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Halls?
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Chair Phobie votes aye. Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Madam Chair, just to round out that conversation, I would just note for the record that on consent agenda item 3.3, we did a letter of support also for Lumen CenturyLink for the similar state application. There was not a request for county funds. And even today, this morning, I received a request for a similar letter of support for Charter Spectrum. And this one from today was for 726 unserved or underserved households. So there is obviously a renewal here. Just for note for the board on this particular one, if there is not a board meeting prior to the deadline for application for Charter Spectrum, given that I understand the board's support for these letters to the state, I will do one administratively because I may not be able to get it on your agenda, but it will not be on the board's letterhead. Again, we don't want to stop them from applying for the state money, but just noted they are still coming in. So.
Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on to agenda item number 6, that of Commissioner correspondence, committee reports, upcoming meetings, future agenda items. Who would like to start us out here? Recognizing that later in our agenda, we're having a NACO kind of debrief and workshop, so that can be a share that you were there, but kind of skip over the details of that.
Madam Chair, I can start.
Okay?
Just also wanted to remind everybody again, unless weather deters this from happening tonight, for the Xcel Energy open house tonight at the Becker Community Center in the gymnasium from 4 to 7 to find out more about their line improvement project. Also would like to let everybody know that there is going to be a traveling exhibit and community engagement initiative that explores the science, the history, and the story, culture, and relationship of water in Minnesota. And that will be up at the Sherburne History Center from March 2nd through April 24th, and it's the Mississippi River St. Cloud Watershed Collaborative. So mark your calendars, and hopefully you can get by and see that. Also want to point out that there is still a Parks and Recreation Provide Your Input for Sherburne County Parks, developing draft recommendations for the next 10 to 20 years. You can find this on our website, so please, I encourage you to go in and check out that and provide your comments on the park improvements. And what I've been busy doing. February 7th, I had an early childhood and family education meeting at Liberty Elementary, and that is a lot of great people that are part of that board that work to help create lots of opportunities for our littles in their learning experience, along with family support. And also then February 9th, had our CMRP meeting, Central Mississippi River Partnership meeting. That is where we have working on going forward, and we elected a chair. The new chair this year will be Lloyd Hildegard, the mayor for Big Lake, or sorry, Monticello. He should be. And then Vice Chair Tracy Bertram, mayor of Becker. And also formed a committee made up of Andrew Witter and Chad, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't have his last name, but he is one of the engineers from Wright County, and also myself representing our county, and MnDOT representative, and that is to discuss and review the task of scoring our criteria for our purpose and need document. And then also had an APO meeting that same day in St. Cloud. And then, like you had mentioned, Madam Chair, the NACO Legislative Conference, we will discuss that later in workshop. On the 15th, I attended the Sherburne County Sub-Coalition meeting and also attended the Sherburne County Community Partners meeting up at the Sunken Ship in Princeton. And we had got to have our state demographer, Luke Greiner, gave us a very, very interesting update on where our county is at in economic development, housing needs, and how we are growing and will continue to grow. And then also February 16th, County EDA meeting. We had a really good presentation in regards to our, hold on a second, banking call reports that we got from Andrew Voller, and that was very, very interesting. We heard a lot about where the interest rates are going to go and different things of what he feels is going to be coming at us for our future in our economic needs. And also received an update in regards to our broadband and how much it costs to run broadband. Of a mile of fiber is about $60,000, and trying to improve where they are placing drops and stuff to run to the house. The biggest challenge is getting that last mile in your areas that are of less population, but yet still deserve the access to the broadband that your more populated areas get a lot easier. And that's a lot of where we're putting our dollars into. And then also after that, attended on February 16th, also attended a diversity and equity information session here at the Government Center. And then February 17th, attended the 7W Transportation Board meeting up in St. Cloud, where we approved a couple of projects that will benefit us here in Sherburne County. We got the approval for the CASA 4 in regards to dollars for constructing the CASA 4 from 700 feet west of 10th Street to County Road 45 in Zimmerman. And so that'd be helpful. We also were supported in our candidate project, which will go on to be further ranked in the state for CASA 5, having a pedestrian bridge go across the Elk River. And that pretty much is my schedule. Thanks.
Commissioner Gray?
February 8th, I had a meet and greet with Dave Kleist, the mayor of St. Cloud. Part of his city of St. Cloud's in my district, so we had a good discussion in regards to Sherburne County and the city of St. Cloud. That evening, I continued on seeing all of the townships in my district. I visited with Santiago Township. I attended their monthly board meeting. February 9th, had the monthly board meeting of the Soil Water Conservation District. Also on February 9th, we had the Zoom meeting by Micah for a legislative update. Had the NACO conference the 10th through the 14th. Rayanne already touched on the community partners meeting at the Sunken Ship in Princeton. February 16th, we had the Greater St. Cloud Development Corp meeting in Capital One in St. Cloud. Their annual meeting, and currently their executive director is stepping down, retiring, so they're in the process of hiring a new executive director. Hope to be on board by June. That evening, the 16th, attended the planning and zoning meeting here at the Government Center. And February 17th, Greg and I attended the Elk River Chambers meeting for newly elected officials. They had an open panel discussion, and we were asked all kinds of questions that we tried to answer. So I think we did a good job.
Saw pictures from that.
All right.
Good job.
Thanks.
Commissioner Felber?
So, yeah, we've covered a lot of what I've already. I also attended the CMRP meeting as the alternate. I was glad to see what was going on there. We all went to NACO, which was just fantastic. The Elk River Chamber was interesting. The meeting up at Sunken Ship Brewery, all of those that were already covered. One of the recurring themes that I'm seeing in all of these meetings is from the demographers and from business people is that housing and getting housing for our future workforce is super critical for Sherburne County. And one of the recurring themes is that regulation we're over-regulated in Minnesota in general. So one thing I'd like to take a look at, if we can down the line, would be looking at our regulations for housing and development, see if there's some way we can help fill in that missing middle with starter homes or some sort of a township or townhouse complex, something like that. And I think that's really about it, because everything else was really well covered.
Okay. Commissioner Halls?
Yeah, thank you. So starting 2 weeks ago, we as a smaller group met on the constitutional resolution subject. I thought that was a very good discussion. And as Bruce mentioned in his announcements, he's working on a draft for that as we speak. Attended the NACO conference. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but there are a couple of, I think, key action items out of that particular conference that I want to make sure we discuss. On February 16th, I also attended the Economic Development Authority meeting. I did also find the banking discussion most interesting, and one of the key items that they discussed was delinquency in car payments through the Truist reports, which is a leading indicator of economic problems. You know, whether it's a recession or not, you don't know. But the discussion was, or how it was reported out to us is that that's one of the leading indicators when people will continue to make payments on their homes, but when they start to default on their cars, it's a leading indicator. And that particular number, I think, had tripled in the last reporting period. So it's something for us to keep an eye on. It's of significant concern. And then had a few discussions with our Representative Novotny on some of the key bills that are going through the House and Senate this week.
Okay, thank you. And my report, lots of what everyone else has been doing also, but I had an ISD 728, the Elk River Public Schools Community Partners Meeting. It's always good to touch base with them, hear what's going on between Elk River, Zimmerman, and Rogers. And it also gathers lots of their city people, lots of township people, so it's a great meeting. The MICA board meeting we had, you all should get the MICA update. I hope you're getting that because that is a really extensive, comprehensive update on what's happening at the Capitol. Probably one of our best between the AMC reports and MICA. Those are great. Had the honor of meeting Vice President Harris and having my picture taken with her. Haven't gotten that back yet, but when I do, I will bring it. Was out at NACO with the team here. It was probably the best team building I've ever been a part of. Thanks, we all had a good time and learned a lot. I also had my first NACO Board of Directors meeting, and I want to thank the board and Sherburne County for supporting me in that. And also, I believe it's important that Sherburne have a seat at that table. So proud to be there. Sunken Ship was great. Salute our staff for putting that together. It was a great gathering. Luke Greiner with Deed has just amazing information. He is such a great resource for us. The one that keeps coming back to me is the whole workforce issue isn't so much about why aren't these people working, but there just aren't bodies. There just aren't people. If you study demographics and the number of boomers that are out there that are all retiring and getting old like me, the numbers just aren't there to keep up. So how do you retain what you have is probably one of the biggest keys right now. Make them want to stay with you is what I keep hearing. So diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are a system-wide group that's working on that. We had an update from them that was fantastic. It's critical in our work right now, and I really want to put a call out that all departments be involved in that somehow. I think it's critical for our work. It has been forever and continues to be. TRICAP, I had a TRICAP board meeting. One little side note of that is we're expanding some of our transportation services, and if communities think they're big enough that they need their own TRICAP service, there's always that availability with TRICAP. You would just reach out to their transportation director or their executive director. AMC, since I'm on the NACO board, I'm also now on the AMC board, so I had orientation for that, which was really good. And also Commissioner Halls mentioned our discussion on the our constitutional discussion, which was really good, and many other things, as you all know. Never short of work with the commissioner work. So with that, we are a little behind schedule, but are we okay without a break? Keep moving along and go through ditch authority? People? Okay, so then we'll move on to agenda item number 7 with Mr. Mike Lindau, 7.1, and would want action to approve the agenda for the ditch authority.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda for the ditch authority meeting.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded. Okay, we'll vote by roll call with Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Halls.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Commissioner Felber.
Aye.
Motion has carried. So thank you. Anything else I have to do before you start your report? I don't think so. So thanks.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Welcome, new commissioners. My name's Mike Lindenau. I've been working for Sherburne County it'll be 23 years in June. I'm the county ditch inspector, and I'm also a design technician and road construction inspector. Some things I've worked on recently are I did the design and inspection of the Sherburne History Trail project. Been working on our rural intersection lighting projects, which have really gotten really good feedback, really positive feedback on those. And then I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about for the ditches because typically December, January, February, there's nothing going on, everything's froze, you can't really do nothing. So it's been pretty slow as of late, but it sounds like we might get a foot or better of snow this week, so we could have an interesting spring. If things melt really fast, we could have some issues. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, we have a couple projects lined up as soon as conditions allow in the spring. Some tile replacement and open ditch cleaning with some tree clearing and grubbing. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns on my written report, or is there any questions you may have?
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to say I'm glad you're enthusiastic about what we might be looking forward to in the spring. So thank goodness the guy in charge of taking care of it is really happy it's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Keeps things interesting, that's for sure.
That's one way to put it.
Any other questions about the written report? None. No questions.
Thank you.
That concludes the report. So this is an action item. So I would be open to a motion to accepting the ditch drainage technician's report.
So move.
Motion's made by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any questions or comment? Again, by roll call, Commissioner Halls.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Commissioner Felber.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Lindenau. I forgot the end part on that. Sorry about that. So you have a good day. Okay, with that, I will recess our regular meeting and we'll move to break and reconvene. You have 3 minutes to get us back on schedule. Just joking. Why don't we take 10 minutes? We will be moving into workshop, but we'll be staying at the dais, so Commissioner Halls can participate in that. So come back about 1:45, 10:45, something like that.